In this video, I'm going to tell you the 3 myths that you need to know about when it comes to maximizing muscle mass and strength. So the CNS fatigue occurs in the central nervous system, so hence why it's called CNS, and this is the brain and the spinal cord. When your CNS is fatigued, it has trouble activating your muscles, right? So even though the muscles can lift a lot of weight, produce a lot of force, it cannot achieve their full potential. So an easy way to think about it like this is think of a light switch and a light bulb. You press a switch, you turn it on, it turns the light bulb on. This is literally the same correlation between the CNS and the muscles. One big misconception that not a lot of people know about is that your CNS is completely different to peripheral fatigue. Now, peripheral fatigue comes in 2 primary factors, right? It's through metabolic stress and muscle damage. If you don't know what they are, metabolic stress is literally the muscle pump, and muscle damage is the tearing of the muscle fibers. Peripheral fatigue happens in the muscle. So say for example, I tore my calf muscle, it's not going to affect my ability to flex my bicep. Whereas if my CNS was cooked 100% on 100 degrees, it will affect my entire body. So myth number 1 is lower reps cause more CNS fatigue, right? This myth has probably come around because it makes quite logical sense, right? So think of it like this. Exercises with high intensities, mostly compound exercises, require large neural demands. So if you watch a lot of my videos, I always say, yeah, squats, deadlift, bench press, all these compound exercises require a lot of motor learning. So there was a study done by Howardson et al. In 2016, which had athletes and strong athletes. They were back squatting about 190 kg, performing split squats, push press, and back squat, right? Now, what they found is that pre or post central nervous system activation did not decrease, yet they were doing heavy compound lifts. So despite all of this heavy compound work, neuromuscular fatigue increased. Yeah, you probably would have thought that because all of these exercises are quite hard, they use multiple muscles, and a lot of metabolic stress did occur. However, key word here again is that the central nervous system didn't really have trouble activating the muscles itself. Funnily enough, some researchers have actually believed or thought that CNS fatigue doesn't even exist. Personally, I disagree with it. It might not happen through the mechanisms that you and I thought before, but it might happen through other mechanisms like the neurotransmitters. Okay, back to simplifying it. High activation of the brain itself, so in this case in the motor cortex, does not necessarily relate to higher CNS fatigue. Therefore, lower reps, like a lot of people think, does not necessarily relate to higher fatigue. Myth number 2, man, the more compound an exercise is, the more fatigue you're gonna get, right? That's what every little bro tells you in the gym. So the traditional bro science is that deadlifts, top of the chain, man. CNS is cooked, it's fried, it's burned, it's crispy. Then squats, then compound exercises, and you know what? Isolation exercises, they don't really produce that much CNS, right? Again, bro science. Okay, if you take a step back and remember what I said earlier about these athletes doing 190 back squat, push press, split squats, heavy strong athletes, yet they didn't fatigue the CNS. Rather, if you look at some studies that include isolation exercises like leg extensions, bicep curls, any other isolation exercise, yet they did actually lead to higher CNS fatigue. So there was a study that wanted to investigate, right, the CNS fatigue between squats and deadlifts, because again, if you ask any guy in the gym, he's gonna say deadlifts, man, they fry your CNS. Squats, maybe not so much. So what this study found in particular is that even though deadlifts utilizes a lot more muscle groups and muscles and more total work is being done, the deadlifts and the squats, the CNS fatigue, there was no significant difference at all. So that being said, isolation exercises can produce CNS fatigue, right? Not that any bro would tell you that, but also that compound exercises don't always produce CNS fatigue. Therefore, just because the exercises is a lot harder in terms of its lower reps, it doesn't mean your CNS fatigue is literally being fried on the stove. How many times have you heard someone say this particular phrase? They go something like this, right? They're at the squat rack and they say to you, yo bro, you know what? My CNS is not going to recover over a period of time, over about 3 days, but my muscles, it'll be okay over about a day. So I must be careful, otherwise I'm going to overtrain. So this is very common thing that happens in the gym, right? So there was a study that investigated a significant amount of CNS fatigue after strength training, right? So they had 46% in simple terms. Now, you probably think, okay, it might take maybe 1 to 3 days, maybe if you're a bit pessimistic, 4 days to recover from this. However, it was literally a matter of minutes. So instead of looking on a stove, we can now look in a grill, and some research shows that CNS fatigue is actually just only happens post-workout, so a short period of time, whereas peripheral fatigue, neuromuscular fatigue that I talked about before, may take about 3 days to recover from. So again, in simple terms, for example, let's say you just hit a workout on Monday, you did a chest, bro. Now, on this day you had, a lot of muscle soreness on Tuesday, and you're thinking, okay, my CNS, it might only recover by Thursday. Not really, it can recover a lot faster than your muscles probably could. So to sum this all up, CNS fatigue is basically just short term. It can recover within a few minutes. So to summarize this whole entire video up, number 1, exercise intensity. Just because the exercise is more intense, meaning you're doing less reps and heavy weight, quote unquote powerlifting style, does not necessarily mean that you're going to get higher CNS fatigue. In fact, it could be completely the opposite. Isolation exercises can produce more CNS fatigue because, like I said, most of this fatigue that you're probably feeling is peripheral fatigue. It's through metabolic stress and muscle damage. It's in the muscle itself. It's not in the brain, man. So, number 2, compound exercise. Just because the exercise is compounded using more muscles, you're doing more to work, again, does not necessarily relate to more CNS fatigue. Like I just said, linking to the isolation exercise, they can produce more CNS fatigue. Number 3, your CNS does not take 100 days to recover, man. It can recover within a matter of minutes. So to sum the whole entire video up in one point, I would say this. Most of the fatigue that people think about, it's CNS fatigue, man, I'm fried. It's probably peripheral fatigue, again, meaning the muscle damage, the metabolic stress, it's in the muscle itself. So that's that. If you enjoyed this video, scroll down, click the subscribe button, tap on post notifications, and one thing I have to mention is that if you're real serious about getting in shape, using science, not using this complete bro science, click the link down below. I have created a Facebook group called Science of Getting Jacked, because that's what I'm doing here. If you're not interested in the science of building muscle, losing fat, to be honest with you, I'd probably like you to unsubscribe, because we're not gonna have a good fit for each other. It's just not gonna happen. So anyway, I don't mean to be disrespectful by any means. And one thing I have to say just before we close this video off here is that I thought the exact same as a traditional bro science did. I thought that if you did a lot of compound exercises, heavy weight, your CNS is gonna get fatigued, until I learned new information. Always learning, so should you. And now I need to learn how to pick up the phone. So anyway, man, you know the deal. Here we get jacked with science. As always, stay positive, stay smiling. Let's get it, keep grinding, and I'll see you in the next one.